Now, this week, the continent's entertainment industry is evolving and budding. We explore some of the changes being implemented and additions being made on sets and film production to draw a global audience. The show starts right now. We begin with a spate of violence that extremist rebels have unleashed on locals in simultaneous attacks across 3 countries, including Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The toll from these attacks is close to 100, and authorities in these 3 nations are struggling to control the dangerous and hostile forces. Here's a report.
Our trail begins in Burkina Faso. Militants attacked Kourakou and Tondobi villages in Senu province. At least 44 people were killed by Islamic extremists in multiple attacks in northern Burkina Faso. The West African nation has been overrun by extremist violence linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group that's killed thousands and displaced 2 million people in over 6 years. Fighting has frustrated and divided a once peaceful population, leading to 2 military coups last year, with each junta leader vowing to stem the attacks. But the violence is intensifying and spreading as militants blockade villages, preventing hundreds of thousands of people from moving freely. In February, the Islamic State group claimed responsibility for killing more than 70 soldiers, wounding dozens, and taking 5 hostage in an ambush on a military convoy in the north. A few weeks before that, terrorists killed at least 32 people, including soldiers and civilians, in multiple attacks across the country. The violence has created the worst humanitarian crisis in the country's history, forcing 1 in 5 citizens, some 4.7 million people, to be in need of humanitarian assistance, according to the United Nations. The war spilled over to neighboring Nigeria. At least 30 people were killed in an attack on an internally displaced persons camp in north-central Nigeria, the second major attack in the area this week. Gunmen attacked civilians in a village in Benue State. While it's unclear who was responsible for the attack, authorities said suspicion fell on local herdsmen who have clashed in the past with farmers over land disputes in north-central Nigeria.
We were able to pacify them, and we took a decision that we will take this matter up with the federal government, and we are also trying to schedule a meeting, where some of the leaders of Mieti Allah will also have the opportunity to meet with some of the security chiefs in Abuja, for the purpose of finding a lasting solution to it.
The violence comes days after gunmen killed at least 50 people in 2 separate attacks on Umugiri village in the state, which is referred to as Nigeria's food basket because of its bountiful harvests. However, it is unclear if the same group was responsible for both attacks. And finally, at least 22 civilians were killed by extremist rebels in eastern Congo, the group's second large-scale deadly attack of the week. Fighters with the allied Democratic Forces, which has ties to the Islamic State group, attacked people in Beni territory in North Kivu province.
In truth, the situation was atrocious. I left the field and tried to ask a group of people what had happened in the village without knowing that they were the attackers. They asked me to sit on the ground and they held a gun to my head.
Violence has been simmering in eastern Congo for decades, where some 120 armed groups have been fighting over land, resources, power, and some to defend their communities. According to the United Nations, attacks by rebel groups like ADF have increased recently. Since April last year, ADF attacks have killed at least 370 civilians and abducted several hundred more, including a significant number of children.
We have been crisscrossing, marching, bombing on the Allied Democratic Force stronghold, already directed and advanced, and today we caught them at 12 o'clock sharp at the time of their prayer. We are sure and certain that the Democratic Republic of Congo will win.
The group, which originally operated in North Kivu, has spread to neighboring Ituri province, where over 144,000 people have been displaced between January and February, according to the United Nations. Efforts by Congo's army and Ugandan forces to push them back have yielded little results. Bureau Report, WION World is One.